Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
So, welcome to the Pure Digital webinar. This first one of 2018, and it's about driving new business with digital print. And it's probably one of the most commercially focused sessions we've had, because what we want to try and achieve with this is talk about the potential, but then talk about the practical application, but how to drive new business really with that. Because as we have clearly ascertained with a lot of the research we've done, driving new business digital print, the potential is considerable. I think 45% of our survey believe that growth was in excess of 10%, and quite a high proportion think it's even bigger than that, which sounds super exciting and positive and everything else. But how do you realise that if you're not realising it already? What technology might you invest in? What applications might you invest in? How do you communicate with designers and creatives, people that you haven't really communicated with before? How do you sell the product? So what we've done, because we don't purport to know the answers, is, as usual, we pulled together a really cool bunch of people that have different insight. But all of them I know are united by the fact they're quite creative in their own right anyway. They've experience with driving new business with digital print, and they're open to sharing their insights. So thanks, guys, for joining us today. And at some point, my colleague Frazer will join us as well. I'll just a quick if I can get back into the presentation. Yes, so introducing who we have. Rachel Nunziata, as very well known, located in Florida, so our furthest away panelist from Europe today, digital decor trends expert, I think that's fair to say. So Rachel will be giving us some fresh insight. I know you've done one before with us, Rachel, but this is new stuff you're presenting today, so that's great. Vincent is pretty much in every single webinar we've done so far, but based in Eindhoven, and again, really good insight. There's an intersection between print and creative, so I think driven by design is your new business is an example of that. And we have Hugo Schoute of Low & Bonnard, who again a really famous name in textile and also within decor. So, and Hugo will explain more. And an exhibiting company at Pure Digital. So great to have you, Hugo. And Bjorn van Hamond with RPI, who I discovered actually quite a significant player globally in digital printing. So again, perhaps of a different type, but still, I think it's a great panel. So thanks, guys, for joining us. Like I said, growth is really exciting, and I think surveys have their place, and I think research is great. And when you see double-digit growth, everybody gets excited and so on. But there's clearly a lot of actions that need to be put in place to realise that growth. So that's partly why we're going to be talking about today, is to try to perhaps develop some key actions to help this industry grow and really to unlock new opportunity and new markets. With this same survey, and I'm not going to be presenting a load of bar charts, so don't worry. I think it's clear with our show Pure Digital, which is now part of the Building Holland, or alongside Building Holland in April, that decor is really in a big sweet spot at the moment, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why, of which we'll go into more detail later. But this session is going to be a bit more skewed towards that, but also we're going to talk a bit about packaging and commercial print. So rather than me carrying on here, what I'm going to do now is introduce Rachel and hand over to her, because she's going to give us some thoughts about the market change, but also some different ways of examples of sales channels and so on. I think particularly with interior decor, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
So over to you.
Right.
There you go.
That
just swished across the Atlantic there, and there you go.
Perfect timing. All right, let me make sure go back. Okay, so thank you so much. And yes, I just wanted to, let me see if I have to hide this panel here. Actually, do you know, I'm not even quite sure how to do that. How do I do that? Here
No,
we go.
you're cool. I can just see your slides, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, great.
Yeah.
So, so I just wanted to share a kind of a comprehensive overview of decor. And sorry about that, guys. I don't know if you can see everything or just my slides. Let me go back. There we go. Okay. All right, so yes, mostly US-based, a little bit of consumer, a little bit of commercial contract, but really kind of showing that those two areas are blending, I think, anyway. So let's get started. Personally, I've come from the kind of consumable sales side, so I kind of understand a little bit about selling print media and working with customers, print service providers, and it's really kind of the traditional, kind of the old thinking is, you know, substrate, price, traditional print shows. And, you know, what I've experienced is that if you want to break into the interior decor market, that type of approach or those kind of traditional value propositions will not work, and it's a much more creative and collaborative space. So here's just kind of a quick example of some of the, just kind of a quick idea of what I've thought is a great way to approach this. And when you really understand and break down the kind of creative mindset and the business mindset and coming together, whether you're a manufacturer or a print service provider, it's really about creating brands, especially in this space. Every designer wants to have their own line or their own brand, whether it is just an individual designer or it's a retailer. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity as a printer or as a media company to be able to collaborate and work together and to create brands. So it's really more about a holistic approach and not necessarily, I think, diving in and going straight to the product and the price. So, you know, really thinking about the designer's end goal or the brand's end goal. This is a really great example. I saw this this quick press release the other day about Tom Dixon. He's a designer. I think he's a British designer, and I'm sure you've all seen his work. But he's partnered up with BEMS to create this new IKEA slipcover collection, and BEMS creates slipcovers for IKEA. Some of the products are digitally printed, but you know, really specifically here, the point here is that, you know, I think the presentation of yourself in this space is really about being very creative. It's about, you know, being style conscious. I think that the kind of the visual cues that you give off are really important to attract the right kind of customer. It's a different type of marketing, and content marketing is really part of that. More project focused, and you know, Vincent, you can talk all about that, but it's not necessarily just about the individual products. It's kind of like the total vision, and it's much more social and collaborative. So you'll see a lot of people talking about collections and new ideas on social media, and I think that's really important if you want to position and present yourself, you know, in this kind of space. So this is something I found actually last night. I added this in quickly, but here, the American Society of Interior Designers, they had a report that they just released, and this is, I think, so important about the availability of design, and not necessarily to the contract market. Yes, of course, you know, that's a totally different space, but I think what's really interesting is that we're seeing consumers have more accessibility to design in their homes. I know here in the U.S., the you know, the real estate market has turned, and there's a much more positive consumer outlook on, you know, design and home and things like that. So I think that the fact that there is more focus on design and consumers are really kind of involved in that in their homes is a really good sign that there's a lot of opportunity in the market, which kind of leads me to the next part about new sales channels. So again, in my experience in the past, helping clients that were either print service providers, or I've collaborated with other designers that wanted to print their own wall coverings or textiles, or they want to launch their own collections, that it's a little bit different. I kind of always say that it's not so linear, it's more three-dimensional. So I think it's important to think about, you know, where are these designers, where are these design brands living, and to obviously to reach the consumer and to reach the designer, because designers are not just shopping at trade shows and markets and fairs. They're shopping online too. So I think it's important to think about, you know, where can you put your product online? You know, this is a great example. Havenly is an online e-design company. So they have partnerships with over 400, you know, furniture manufacturers or different brands that list their products. And why not approach somebody like that and talk about adding a customization element into the products that they list on their site for the consumers. And they put together these design boards, and obviously there's a wall covering in the background there. I think it's probably an unprinted, it's a grass cloth, but nevertheless, there is definitely a printed material that I've seen on this site, and consumers can go on here and work with a professional designer, and they'll create a mood board based on your room or interior, and you can shop for all the products. So I think that's really revolutionary, and I think it's something definitely to look at. Mm-hmm. Here, you can create your own space, and design is changing. And I've heard this again and again from interior designers that the interior design market hasn't changed, at least here in the US. And so long, it's a lot of them just are kind of frank, and they just say, you know what, it's really dated. We don't have the technology, but now that there is, so there's all these design software and tools and different solutions that they're utilizing, but you can tap into as well. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of interesting, just tidbit of information that, design and decor is such a broad statement, and there's so many different verticals and segments and kind of niches that go along with it. But I think this is a really great example of how a fashion label has worked with a design house. And we see this a lot, a lot of partnerships, and they'll kind of team up together, collaborate, and create capsule collections or new lines. And, in the luxury market, they're stating here that, it's 27 billion, and who knows how much the rest of it is, but it's growing. We're seeing more and more growth because people are getting creative, and they're able to be more creative with all the tools that are now available. And kind of the last, I know I went through this quickly, but the last quote, I really love this. I think it's so important, and I think if you want to build a new business, whether if you're a manufacturer with digital print as an implant component, or you're a print service provider, or you're a designer, or whatever you are in the industry, that it's really important to understand either building brands and the value of that. And that's really where, again, the holistic kind of approach comes in, is if you have this in mind, I think, and you work with the right people, you can build a very successful business. And I think this is a really good piece of advice.
Cool, brilliant, thank you very much. And obviously creative, all of those things, it really starts with, if you're selling what is in essence a creative solution to somebody, or either to a business or somebody, it's hard if you approach that person really with a very set process, defined or linear. I think you said there, it's not so linear anymore, is it? That kind of that kind of typical printer approach would be much more, I can do whatever you like. Mm-hmm. But would you say a creative doesn't necessarily always know what they want, but they want to collaborate with somebody to kind of give them that idea or that flash of inspiration or whatever? I mean, is that fair to say?
Yes, I think that, and I actually worked with a designer, and he didn't know much about printing. I mean, and Vincent, you can go into a lot more detail than I can, but I think it's important to kind of explain to them what the possibilities are, and they have their own creative process, and work with them and support them. But yeah, I think it's important to just kind of create the right guidance to kind of trigger a thought in their mind, and they can kind of come up with the ideas. But it's definitely a different approach, and I think that a lot of it has to do with kind of the language that we use in print. We tend to be obviously very technical. We kind of like talk to each other. I always say that too. We're always talking to each other in our marketing and in trade shows, and that's what's so great about Pure Digital, is that we're changing our direction, our focus, and we're going out into the market and not just talking to each other about the latest technology and the latest and greatest. We're actually, we need to go out and inspire and get people to kind of come in and show them what they can do.
Yeah, sure. And one of the things I also, because I did a little bit of thinking about creatives and reading and so on, but another thing is that creative people are storytellers. Mm-hmm. So you've got to tell them a story of some description that kind of ignites their energy, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think that the last thing a creative wants to hear is technical features. Mm-hmm. Because by
Features and benefits.
the end of the first sentence, they've fallen asleep, right? They're kind of like, yeah, whatever. And it's not that the features are not relevant, but actually it's about solving creative problems, isn't it? Not proving that your machinery is efficient, because that isn't really going to do it. So thanks for that, Rachel. Vincent, Rachel's given us a really nice kind of a really useful overview of how things are changing. You mentioned the contract market as well, Rachel, and the consumer market. So that's a new thing, isn't it? It used to all be contract, I suppose, and now it's becoming more consumer. Vincent, your business is really, you're the intersection. Well, you can explain, but I see you as somebody that understands print on the one hand, but also the creative world on the other. Is that mean that you've got kind of an unusual brain, or is that unique in the sense for you? Is that typical of Dutch people, that can have a good left brain and a good right brain?
A free mind is always a good thing, I think, and the Dutch are familiar with it.
Yeah,
you're right in
absolutely.
that part. But what it is I can go to my screen right now.
Yeah. Sure, but by all means, just chat, because
it's opening. Can you see it?
Yep, can see it. Yeah.
Yep.
I would say.
What it is? What you were saying. What I do is I find out in digital print as well that that we are shifting. We are shifting and blurring boundaries. In the early days, this, for example, government hall came up to us and asked us with a USB stick in their hand, can you put this visual on that wall, and can you put this stick on that window? They're shifting now. Now the government hall is coming over and said, look, this is our canteen, and there's only 30 people having their lunch in there, and we can easily settle 150 people in there. But nobody's coming, and it's like this sad thing to see. So when you put in, and I think that's one of the answers of how you can drive new business with digital print, is to have the designer on the table. When you get a social designer in that project who is going to do the research about what is necessary, what is it to do to get this area that much okay, and give it an experience as well, that people do want to come in here. And then you do the project with the designer, you come up with new levels. Otherwise you start all over with the same pictures in everywhere. It was a time in Holland where there was cows on every wall, and I see all these chalkboards with white crayons on drawn. It's in everywhere, and behind every coffee corner is like this, have the coffee beans. So if you really want to make the difference and you want to touch the essence, get a designer on your table and fly to the project together.
That's interesting. So it's just some of the things I've read is that thing is a designer understands that nothing is truly original, right? I mean, let's be honest, everything's come from something, but they want to make an expression that's individual, don't they? They don't want to be another cow or another coffee bean. They want to do something original and something new, and they want to collaborate as well to help them find that solution. Yeah.
If you talk about rooms, every room eats something different because someone different is living in there. So some project we did was where there's something like this. It's a hospital, and to like soften up the clinical experience, there's a big change in hospitals in Holland and in a lot of countries in the world. And one of the things is using visuals in there. They're using printed items in hospitals. You can just put something on the wall, but if you get in the project with a designer, like I said before, you come up with the things that the clients, the patients, they do need. And this one is like a what's it called? For eye care.
Oh yeah.
So people in this hospital, in this part, people come in there when they need eye care, when they need to do, and a lot of people, their eye vision is going down, so they turn blind. When they enter this room, you see the sunflowers on the wall, and someone who goes blind, the last thing he sees is a sunflower. That's the last flower he can recognize when he turns blind. So every time when he comes in there, he feels a little more comfortable. It's maybe not the right expression, but at least he feels more.
Calm.
He feels
calm, maybe.
settled in there.
Yeah.
It's recognizable. He knows he's in the right place. It's a familiar surrounding, and he feels more at ease to be in there. So you can put a cow in here, and it would be nice for everybody who can see the cow or loves cows. And but it's different when you like get the subject or the topic onto the spot.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Which relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's
So
this?
yeah, it's a hospital where they do eye care, and where you see like all these sunflowers and flowers with a lot of contrasts in there. That's what I want to say about you having the designer on your table. Also, what I would like to advise is follow the big trends in the world. I was at Heim Textile. I think a few of you were in there as well, and I think a lot of listeners or attendees maybe have been there or heard about it. There was this project in there about the mega trend about the future is urban, about urbanization, like the bigger growth of the big cities in the world. You need something to do with it. You need to think about it, that in 3 years, there's a lot of mega cities. There's a lot of cities even bigger than a lot of countries. So what's happening? There's a lot of more concrete everywhere. So this complete new movement is coming up, and one of them is the urban oasis. It's like adding nature into your home to feel more comfortable and more at ease. So you can use it in this way. Actually, it's printed on AirTex. It's completely seamless. I think Hugo will tell you more about it later. A great product, completely seamless, no stripes in there, completely hygienic. And you bring outside to the inside. So all these trends, like all the harshness in the world, I saw this crazy things last week on the news with bombings and all the harshness. People need to soften up in some kind of way, and you see the translation of that in your interior.
Very nice. Seamless, you mentioned earlier. Obviously, that's an advantage digital has, in terms of what is the value really of seamless? I suppose Hugo will explain, but it'd be interesting since you mentioned it. Does it mean that there's no pattern repeats? What does it mean, seamless?
You can do it without repeats, but you also don't feel any seam in between it.
Yeah.
So normally you put like on wall paper from 1 meter width, and you put all these stripes up on the wall, and you got all the seams between it. And with this, you can, when you get like walls of 25 meters length times 5 meters height, you can put it with one big seamless AirTex wall covering. Great application. Also, because these are hospitals, and you got a hygienic part as well.
Okay.
But maybe I'm talking for Hugo, and I'm talking too much techniques.
He can repeat it, and then everybody will want to buy AirTex in, won't they? That's cool. Yeah.
They should. But it's about bringing outside to the inside, and how do you get to these designers? And I think one of the things is visit them. Visit these designers in the workspaces. They're always very open. Invite them to your place, but most of all, visit all these design weeks. Please keep visiting FESPA and all these shows, but also keep looking out for new, well, not shows, but more like the design weeks as well. Meet the designers. And Mark, you were talking about storytelling. I think that's a great gift they have. The storytelling is to be done, and they translate it to in this way in a graphic solution to put on your wall, and that will drive or push your business as well, very well. So that's why I started Driven by Design, because I see a big mismatch between the commerce and the creativity, and they both need ideas and strategies. And I noticed a big mismatch, and that's why Driven by Design was born, to help companies and to help creatives to get up together and to get into new business.
Okay, thanks very much. And has anyone got any questions for Vincent or comments? Bjorn, is this a completely different field from the the kind of market that you're involved with RPI, or are you starting to think about this market differently? Or?
No, it's actually pretty funny because though the products are different, we have to deal with the same things. Because I see the same trends for what we do is personalized printing, and whether it's a photo book, a wall deco, or whatever, it's all started to shift in one thing. It's all about personalization, being different, creating your own brands, and those kind of things. And it's actually the technology who drives it. And though I'm not that into the interior design, I see the similarities with our business, and that's basically has everything to do with all the technology and the changing consumer behavior, I think.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Good.
And it's unbelievable what's possible also in that area. Because I did indeed notice the trends. If you walked into the hospitals, Tilburg, there's home where I live, they have like all great nature spots, which is better than that white wall indeed when you're not feeling well.
I think you've said, Vincent, as well in the past, where they've used print in kind of hospitals or with patients that have dementia or Alzheimer's and stuff, and changed the walls to be like kind of library books and things like that, and that's kind of calmed people down. It's made people feel more at home and so on.
What we did before was a lot of project where people who are Alzheimer institutions or dementia institutions, and what happens is they are in the daycare and they are with like these standard gray doors. Their mind works in a different way because of their illness, because of the disease, and they see that as a gap and they want to run away. That's their natural behavior, which fits the disease. So they get out of the daycare, and the nurses have to look for them, because the other thing they do is hide. They hide themselves everywhere on different floors, different rooms. So what we did, we were in there, and with a designer, we found out that when we put prints on the door, so bookshelves with books in it, they don't recognize it directly as a door. They know they can get through if they walk around, but when they're sitting in a daycare, they don't recognize that as a door, and they don't have the feet, the internal feet to flee out of the door to run away. So they are more at ease and more calm. So if you're talking about driving new business, it's not only what's the difference, and that's maybe a good question for the people to ask themselves. Let's say these door, the vinyl, the stick-on, the installation of it, what does it cost? 300, 400 euros? But what does it give you when you get a full-time employee, yet less, or to have in another direction working, and she's not the complete day busy with looking for their patients and clients? Is it okay then if the door print costs you 1,000 euros? I think so. I think it's well worth money spent.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And moving now on to our next panelist, Hugo Schoute. And
yes, hello, Margaret. Yeah, thank you for having me on the panel today.
Drive new business. Over to you.
Yeah, you can see my presentation already?
Can do, yes.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to drive you quickly to who we are as a business. We are the Low and Bottler company, Coated Technical Textiles. We make this fabric over since the last 60 years. We make all our fabrics mainly in Germany, and we make about 60 million square meters fabric annually. Our industries are the tensile architecture business, interiors, tents, marquees, leisure, sun shading, flex tanks, trucks, tarps, boats, and many other industries. What do? We weave our base fabric, we coat our fabric, we lacquer it if necessary, we stock our articles worldwide, and we sell it directly into the market. And we optimize and develop new products. And how do we do it? There we come also back to Vincent's part. We communicate. And not that we succeed on that on a daily basis, but we try to communicate sincerely with our customers, printers, end users, architects, and designers. And we strongly believe if we solve our customers' problems with our fabric, we can create a unique relationship with our customers for long term. Because solving problems, helps you to create this unique situation with your customer. I'm going to give you some examples, 4 in total, where we succeeded to do that. Not always on our own initiative, but also often on our customer part. But I'm going to guide you through it. The first example is the full color truck curtain business. This business was done in the past by screen printing or by hand, and the Dutch-based company Printable launched this revolutionary concept about 10 years ago, and they gave a full 5-year warranty on digital printed side curtains. Digital printed was always done, colors fade, is not, they don't last long, and the Printable concept changed that, and they can give you, as I said, a full 5-year warranty. And in this truck curtain business, they are leading in Europe and even beyond in the full color business. They're the key player in this field, and it's very interesting to check out their website, because they can show you the concept, how they do it, and why they're so successful in their business. So I advise you to look on that. The other one is the same company, but then put it into practice to facades and roofings. And links, left picture below, you see a cladding. It was done in the Netherlands. And here we got a 10-year full warranty on fixed structures, which was also completely new in this world. And we even tendered for a very big stadium. It's in Qatar for the World Soccer Chips 2022. It was the inner roofing. It was about 60 to 80,000 square meters. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. We were in it for a long time, but finally they chose for another design. But that would have been really revolutionary if we would be able to get this through. But it was in Qatar. Part of it was outside. Color red, 10 years warranty, is unique for digital printed colors, and this is possible nowadays. And the other concept, the other one was not one of my customers, but it was a speedboat manufacturer who wanted a camouflage tarn on his fabric, which was always fading. So they found a solution by printing on it. Then the fabric came back to our company. We coated it again with a translucent coating, put it back to the customer, and they made a very nice camouflage speedboat out of it. And the coating or the print can't be scratched or damaged in any way, because it's really heavily protected. This was never done before also. And last one, of course, it's actually a typical Dutch story, I guess. The seamless wall covering. We talk about it that we apply this now horizontally instead of vertically. It was initiated by a printer in 2004, Mark Schoenmakers from the company Big Impact. And I think he was at the beginning of a whole new industry. And the seamless digital printed wall covering allows designers and architects to make amazing walls up to 200, 300 square meters without any seams in it. And then other creatives like Vincent, who is also on the panel, took this business to another dimension by interacting even more closely with real designers, which you can see later on in some pictures. Even getting further into the market, asking for their needs, and solving that by with this former company Exposise with the printing techniques they have. What we do as Low & Bonner, we provide this industry with our product AirTex, which is in several widths, but mainly 320 and 5 meter, to get the seamless walls. And I saw in the beginning of some presentations that the brand is very important. We are very happy with our brand AirTex. In the Netherlands, it's similar, stands for seamless wall covering applications. It has a flawless reputation, and it's well known by its users and end users. And I'm going to show you some pictures of projects. This is one Vincent done with his former company. You see the design in the dress and in the wall coming back. The wall are 5 meter high, made on AirTex. This was in the car museum in the Netherlands. This was another project done by Vincent. And this was again the car museum. The big advantage is really the seamless one, and then you can create one big image, huge impressing images, seamless. And the seamless part is that important because it's always on the locations where people have the intention to start peeling on the seams, getting them off, destroying your image. And besides hygiene is having a durable wall with an image on it that sticks there for a longer time, makes it worthwhile investing in it. And this was also the end of my presentation, Marcus.
That's brilliant. And so obviously with this AirTex product, you're helping other people. Well, you're unlocking new business for Low and Bonard, but also you're helping your customers do a similar thing. Where did that come from? What, how did you achieve that? What, you just woke up one morning and thought, oh, let's do something. Is it because you're tell us, how did you achieve?
No, it went by experience over the last years. We found out that first of all, selling fabrics on a daily basis is quite boring because you do every same. You can show people samples, which is not interesting at one point anymore. So I decided to start solving problems for customers. When you communicate with customers, when you talk to them, they show you their issues. And we were able to solve issues with our fabrics. And when we did that, we saw that we created huge opportunities, turnover-wise, margin-wise, new segments which we were not active in or they didn't belong to us. And by changing our products, by creating new products and solving our customers' issues, we owned these segments later on. And that opened their eyes. That was the way of doing business. Solving problems can give you customers for life, and they can send you into markets which you were not familiar with before. And that's why we got a strong belief in doing that for now and for the future.
Yeah. And that's something you continue to do. So you're committed to developing new things all the time, are you?
Yeah, as we said in our previous conversation, we exhibit on fairs, not to sell exactly our products, AirTex or other products. We also exhibit on fairs to show the concept of what is possible. For example, the seamless wall covering. It's a new concept in an existing market. People have to adapt to the thought that the fabric is not 1 meter wide, but this can be 5 meter wide. And if you flip it upside down, you have a seamless wall. People are not used to this idea. So that's the concept we're trying to spread, not only in Europe, but also outside there. And that's something we're pursuing.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks very much. Go on.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Yes, please.
The really strong thing at Low and Bonard that I see last year on Dutch Design Week is a typical great example of companies gather up with designers. Well, Low and Bonard, the company where Hugo is at, they gathered up together with a group of designers. They gave them one material that they use. It's called Colback, if I'm right, and it's used in cars and in dashboards and in tops of cars, things like that. And they gave this material, which is very familiar with, because a lot of people know it, but it's not to be recognized by a lot of people that it's this specific material. And the great thing is they get like a group of designers, gave them the material and said, well, create something and see what these boundaries are of this specific material. And they translated that into an exposition at Dutch Design Week. So what happened is that a lot of other people get interested in the materials as well. So a lot of new things come up when you work together with these designers, not only in R&D, but also in looks and feels, and also in PR.
What's interesting, what you're saying there is spot on. You're saying it's about sharing, isn't it? It's about doing lots of things, not necessarily trying to close the deal each time, but sharing insight, being part of the community, doing things like the webinar, writing blogs, I don't know, being at events that may be outside of your normal thing. I think all of those things, I'm not just being negative about the print industry, I think it's lots of traditional industries typically don't do. They go to the same events, the same conversations, feel good about it because it's nice being part of a community, but you're not actually driving anything new, are you? And that's the thing. You've got to be outgoing, I guess, and open-minded and connect with people outside of your immediate neighbourhood, which is partly why we invited Bjorn van Hamond to this panel, because I knew he wasn't going to be talking about Deco all the time, and we had a good chat.
No.
We had a good chat. I think, funny enough, again about connections.
Nice segue.
Thank you very much. This
Nice segue.
there was an event in Eindhoven. Funny enough, there's another link to Eindhoven and a Canon event. I think that's where we met there when, funny enough, I presented. Anyway, so Bjorn, we talked, and you obviously are part of a business that's a significant global player for digital printing, but not decor. So introduce yourself and the company and talk a bit about driving new business.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus, and thank you all for attending. I have some couple of slides here to tell something more about RPI. And RPI, we're in the business of personalized print. Myself, I've been with the company quite a while. And what's so interesting about personalized print is it's changing rapidly, and it really is a technology that drives our business nowadays. I will tell you something about our history, and then you can see how we adapt. But even though our products are pretty similar, we're in the production of like photo books, which you can order online, cards, calendars, brochures for corporate industries, all those kind of things. We do fulfillment, everything. But the most important thing, and that's what I hear Vincent saying, it all starts with good ideas and creativity. Because without that, we won't do any business. At RPI, we are, and it's what our center said, RPI delivers personalized print services for businesses around the world. We ship to consumers all day, but we do that for our customers. So we represent some great brands in the world, offering their products, and we are just their production facility for them. But over the years, we see a big change, because in the past, a company would come to us and say, okay, I want this product, can you make them? And we'd say yes or no, or we would investigate it. But now that changed to a great technology of creative companies, and they say, okay, think along with us, what can we sell? So it's more also that community of app builders, creativity, print service providers like we do, the whole logistic engine, e-commerce, that's all part of our interaction with the world. And instead of just producing, we also need to inspire our people and the people we want to work for, the companies we want to work for, about the possibilities. Because here you see the background, if you can see, there's a picture of our factory, which is highly automated and completely built to make one unique piece on a big scale. So we make thousands of books every day, all unique, all high quality, and you can't do that without a very good process. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the process, but what we can do with it.
It's still important. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a whole backbone outside it, and there are a lot of printing companies out there, and there are a lot of with the big automation, but there's not so much. Companies around there who can do it on a big scale, on a high quality, day in, day out, and on a global level. Because RPI is an American company. We were in Eindhoven facility was acquired in 2010, and before that we were a private owned, shipping stuff all over the world. But we need to globalize with all the internet developments and technology developments. We need to do it on a global scale. And now our headquarters is based in Seattle. We have a factory in Atlanta, Eindhoven, and a lot of partner facilities where we work for. Overall, we work with in Australia, New Zealand, across the globe. And also for Wall Deco, we have our partners, because we don't do that ourselves, only in a small amount for consumers, and not the beautiful products I saw earlier before. But you can imagine it's like canvases or debond, those kind of stuff which people put on their wall with pictures. That's what we do. If you look to our history, then, and I think that's also my message. If you look at how can you do business, and where does the growth come from? And there's only one thing important, and that's that you always adapt to change. The world changes. If you look to the photo industry, for example, when digital photography came in, even before the smartphones came in, well, that really changed our world. That changed our world of communication. That changed the possibilities. And well, I don't know how the future will look like if 10 years from now, but there's one thing I know for sure, is that there will be changes and there will be opportunities again. And if you look to our history, we started as a typewriting repair shop and nothing more than that. And from one way to the other, we're always saying yes to new ideas and new customers, using creativity out of the market. Yeah, we came to the next level. And like I said, when we were in 2010, we were acquired by RPI. We were really that mass customization platform for digital print productions. And that sounds horrible, but now it really is all about personalization if you look in 2018. And the thing that drove that, that's actually the people behind it. Not only the technology, but from our standpoint as a company, it's really, you need to create people with creative ideas. You need to get network, you need to work together, even as a print service provider. And like I said earlier, and here's some examples. Our technology is based on print, so all our products are 99% of our products are on paper, and we do that with HP technology, Indigo technology, which is very high quality, but all on demand. But the products we make nowadays differ a lot from what we did like 15 years ago. I wasn't there back then, but then the word was like, if you look to the more the commercial side of the business, which was then our main business. Well, Philips was a customer, for example, and they had some new stuff to put into the market, and they wanted some brochures, and they bought like 100,000, 200,000, put them in a warehouse, and at the end 80,000 were scrapped, and they have their next one. So nice business model, but not very sustainable. Now we print that same brochures, but only when needed and shipped directly to home in a faster pace, all those kind of things. And if you look to the technology side, with all social media developments, with all developments in the internet, in the product side, that really is what we're driving us. We really literally have customers where you can make a photo book in 2 seconds just by uploading connecting with your Facebook, and you get it into your print. So in the 90s, when people thought, okay, paper, that will be something, in 20 years we won't know any paper. Actually 20 years later, there's produced more paper than ever. It's only used in a different way because of the communication. It's really changing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah. In terms of the change that obviously hugely since, I'm sure you don't repair many typewriters anymore. Can I just check that first?
No.
Stop that line. Not much demand anymore. So that kind of evolution and so on, and using technology. A lot of what you've talked about is automation. So, and that's obviously it frees up a lot of time for creativity. And to what extent are you creating new products? You know, to what extent are you pushing the boundaries of what you're doing, and how's that really driving new demand? Is you mentioned social media? Are you really sort of engaging with designers and creatives in a similar way to what Vincent is, or?
No, not on the level. And I had a discussion with Vincent earlier, and that's really a thing we are changing now, our approach, because basically our customers, they bring the technology, the creativity. We just have our technology and our automation to do that production. But what we see is that if we work close together, well, 1 + 1 is 3. And I think in that sense, it's the same in the interior market as here. And it's more of community thinking, and it's more about, okay, how can we build things together? Because we know a lot about products and what's possible with all devices, and since we're a white label, we do everything branded for our customers, and we have a very variety of possibilities, more than a lot of people know, and that's our job, really, to inspire and to have that conversation with the designers, with the creatives, because they will bring that new app that will be revolutionary, etc.
Yeah. So it's really into that. You mentioned personalization. So are you finding that that's a big thing for your business, or is it more of a nice thing?
Sorry again.
Personalization. Is that a big thing for your business? Is that something, I remember seeing it 5-10 years ago where you'd have magazines arrive with your name on it, but I don't see that anymore.
Yeah. No, that's like last century.
Yeah.
No, and we don't. It's really about, okay, I want to create something. So our customers, they want to create their own book. They want an app. They have thousands of pictures on their photo, and the trends now is that 5 years ago, or still a lot of people, you would download a client at a provider where you can make a photo book, for example. Now it's all auto curated. You needed to spend like 3-4 nights, 2 Saturdays to build that book, and then finally, when you ordered it, you were not happy because the quality was not good. Well, nowadays the quality is perfect, and it only costs you couple of minutes on your phone with some great app technology using artificial intelligence, all those kind of technology that really works for our type of products really well. So people can create it, everything using that.
Yeah. So a lot of it's about sort of customization, isn't it? Having your own, Rachel was saying at the beginning about brand. Really, what it sounds like you're doing is using print for your customers to create, to re-endorse their brand and who they are, and you see some great examples of magazines that are produced by brands like Superdry, or my favourite one's Beer Hall. But that kind of like and it's beautifully produced, beautifully written. It's really thought through, and it's something you keep. It has a lot of power attached to it. And it's probably something you wouldn't do with analog printing. It would be a digital solution.
Exactly, and that's where you come when everything print and the way we print and the personalization, the customized print, it has value because it's yours. It's people pay more for that book what they would buy for a book what you buy in the store and those kind of things. So in that manner, and referring also to Rachel's presentation, if you start talking about all the price and the products, well, that's not the thing. It's all about the concept and what it really means for people who would buy those products. And even for businesses, with all the digital overload, with emails, Facebook advertisement, Google AdWords, a printed marketing piece really stands out nowadays if it's well done. And you see now more again companies, and we're not really in that space, but you see that really really direct mail and those kind of stuff is really it's returning. It's increasing again, and because it's effective, it's more. It really has a position in a totally marketing mix.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, and more.
Thank you. So great.
A lot
Thanks
of
for
opportunities
that.
out there.
Great. I'm pleased to hear that. Thanks for being part of that. Just towards the end now, and I want Frazer's got some really good slides here. Frazer, obviously co-founder of Pure Digital, my colleague, is going to kind of conclude already and by explaining how to drive growth and be successful.
Yeah, I just kind of want to loop things together, obviously, after everyone's conversation, and actually just start to think a little bit more specifically. When we did a run through yesterday, I kind of put some slides up to get people thinking, and actually, everyone, Hugo, Rachel, were all commenting on how actually we talk a good game, don't we? But actually, do we deliver? Do we do it? I kind of, when I do this presentation, I tend to do this presentation to the print industry. And I ask them, who wants to be successful here? And I kind of think, people raise their hands because everyone wants to be successful. We think that there are two types of people who are successful out there. They're the lucky ones who think they're clever, and the clever ones who know they're actually lucky. It's very obvious that, but actually it just reminds us that you kind of need to create your luck. You kind of need to put yourself in a position where that luck comes to you rather than kind of expect it to happen. We kind of think it's worth asking the questions of our business and of our customers, and it sounds like a lot of you guys are doing this already, but actually just to ask a little bit more about where business comes from. How much time and resource do we spend on sets of customers, new customers, old customers, existing customers? what we look at, I heard it mentioned by Hugo before about customer need. He was talking about that. I think that we forget a lot about that. We forget that actually the way to sell anything is by addressing a customer's need, and we kind of skip over that a lot. And then what makes people buy from you rather than you? And this is an issue I think particularly is prevalent in the print segment, because we're very much commoditized by what we produce in the print segment. Kind of worth reminding ourselves that 80% of business comes from 20% of customers, and actually it's 20% cheaper to keep a client than it is to get a new one. So we kind of go chasing after people thinking new business is the right place, but actually it might be that we want to address our existing customers with new products, and I think that's what we're talking a lot about here, a lot about kind of addressing existing customers. And how much time do we spend on existing customers with new products? And I kind of think that thinking a little bit about time and resource, existing customers, existing product, about 25%, existing customers, new products, kind of what we're talking about now, 35%. New customers, existing products, and I think that is an interesting area, particularly when we're talking about decor. I think, you know, our first starting point surely should be to try and convince people who are current customers to really understand what you can do with new products like decor, which is obviously something there, and then new customers, new products. And we all go chasing after new customers all the time with new ideas, but the reality is it's really difficult to convert those guys. They're the ones you've got to take from right down low and bring them back up to get them to buy from you. So it's a challenge, and I think it's worth thinking about how we structure our customer development by thinking a little bit about how we find and win the ideal customer. Do we have 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 proven lead generation sources where business comes from? And then do we then generate a lead? And then when we do it, how do we we know that process? Do we typically solve that problem easily? And go back to what Hugo has said, is it consultative, is it needs based? Are we selling decor, for example, as a needs solution, as a solution to need? And actually that's what we think we are. We're kind of convinced, aren't we, if you take the idea of wallpaper, that actually the analog guys are struggling with wallpaper to respond to the need that's occurring in top-end hotels or funky bars, or, you know, so actually we are responding to need there. So I think that's worth reminding ourselves, because it fits quite nicely with the kind of format and the thinking behind addressing customers. And then existing customers, how do we keep them? How do we grow that existing customer base? You know, account management versus account development. You know, within our teams, do we have people that are well positioned to manage existing customers? Do we typically place the best sales guys in account handling roles, or do we place them in the kind of go out and get it role? You know, and that kind of is a challenge that we sometimes don't do. This was interesting research that came back from VIGC, who are a Belgium Association of Graphics, and they did some research recently when they talked to their printers, said, how do you currently get new business? And actually looking at this, it's interesting that web page comes up as a kind of key point. It was mentioned a bit earlier. Where do people get new business now? And if it's printers, where do they get new business? Well, actually web page comes up high, direct sales comes up high, email marketing comes up high, and fortunately industry events, you know, exhibitions and those things come up high. But actually the old traditional yellow pages, signage, graphic, not so good. And that's worth thinking about. I'd be interested to hear your comments on that. I'll just finish off this segment with something I want to think about. We always kind of think about boosting profit as a business, and that kind of is that challenge of discount. And what do we do with discounts? Do we discount, or do we, you know, how do we sell extra value? And then I think relevant to what I said earlier, the sales force management, do we then split our teams up, and do we put our best skills applied to the best roles? So do we kind of select the people we've got, or do we have them in the wrong place? And then I love this is a Simon Sinek thing, strategic execution. And I don't know whether, I know that Rachel's heard of this, and I think Hugo said he knew about this. Sinek is a great guy. If he's worth looking at on TED.com and on YouTube. Simon Sinek talks a lot about why, and that businesses who truly have an understanding of their why are the most successful, most innovative, and really get it. And they get it from the point of view of not saying what we do or how we do it, but why we do it. Why we do it. Why do we do what we do? What's the purpose of what we do? Do all the people that work for you understand that? And do all the people that buy from you understand that? And if you take that example of, say, Apple, you know, whether we like Apple or not, they've got a really clear message, and the people that work for them really get it, and the people that buy from them really get it. And that is really creating an environment, a sales environment and a team environment and a business environment where people trust each other, where people understand each other, where there's no backstabbing, where teams work closely together and really get what they do and why they do it. And that's all about agreed goals and setting targets and all those kind of issues. So yeah, finishing as very clearly with empowerment and trust. Just to give you a couple of things, this is quite interesting for us, people selling these days. Here are 4 factors that are really important in sales now. Social proof. We all know this. We do this ourselves. We walk past restaurants. We're having an evening out with our partner. We look to the restaurant that's got people in it. That's social proof. That proves to us that restaurant's got something about it. We typically go for that one, don't we? Authority, whether we like it or not, we still respect authority. So if we've got a product that's got a reference that's really credible, that's going to help us sell that product. Reciprocity, difficult word to say, but it basically means, and it's fair enough, we hope in life that life is fair and that brands give something back. And if you do something for others, they'll do something for you. And actually this works in selling a product, so reciprocity. And then scarcity, creating a sense of scarcity. It's a psychology that's crucial. And these 4 factors are the ones that are the big sellers in terms of what people buy today. So worth thinking about. And I just finish on this because I think it's really relevant to our industry. We're caught up in a very commoditized business environment where print often is very similar, whether it's the printer down the road or the printer, you know, next door to you. They typically are producing the same thing. Get caught up. I heard you talk about it earlier. You were talking about kind of, you know, print speeds and technology, but printers often get caught up in this argument about, well, we can do it quicker and we can do it faster and our machines go faster. But actually, that's not what does it. That's not what really is important. We kind of expect that to be a given. And what makes the difference is adding value. What makes the difference is adding value to the customer. And I really think, it was mentioned earlier, there's a couple of things you can do now that really add value. Create client-centered case studies. You curate and create. So some of the stuff we're doing here, this is an example of it, creating knowledge around the subject and give it away for free. Give it away for free, because actually if it's valuable, that really makes a difference. Host client-centered events, focus on the future, be innovative and break rules, repeat best practice, get feedback, be quick and agile, build A teams. I think this is right. I think the people you've got employed is really important. They will make the big difference between success and no success. And if you've got good people and you build these teams of what we would term A teams, they will help others to develop within the organization. And if you can't demonstrate value, don't do it. And I'll leave this with you. This is just a kind of a big picture idea. I don't know whether any of you guys have got any comments on that as we kind of wrap up. Any comments on anything I've said there? It's, you know, it's clearly very obvious, and nothing in there's rocket science, but it just reminds us that we need to be customer focused and we need to be different. Any comments? Rachel, have you got any comments on that? I heard you making a few noises.
Let me see here. Well, I think that all that is really important to be consistent. I think that, you know, I mean, yeah, we chase new customers, we have new ideas, but we need to be consistent. And I don't know if you saw my presentation earlier, but I think one of the most important things is to be approachable and relatable. And a lot of that can come across in your presentation. I'm very visual, but presentation, your marketing, and the language that you use so that you can connect in that space and stop talking about printer speeds and all this technical stuff. And we're talking to each other. We need to talk out. We need to connect. So That's my
Yeah,
take on
totally
everything.
agree. No, I totally agree. I did like what you said there, because I think it's absolutely right. We're in an environment where we do talk too much about technical aspects of our product, and actually it's nothing to do with that. No one cares about that. That's a given. You expect it to be good. Every printer is pretty much offering the same thing, isn't it? You know, Hugo?
Well, I can only totally agree with you. I think it's very good. The things you just shown us need to be shown more often, because you know them, but maybe you're not aware of them. You should be more, be made aware. It's very easy, like going to the shrink. You know what's wrong. He's just telling you again. By someone else telling you.
I just wonder whether all of you feel that this needs-based sale is relevant in terms of what we've been talking about, particularly with digital print. Do you think that, you know, I would argue that the thing about digital is you're offering something that does something different. Digital print delivers a different way of doing something, and I would say that's about responding to need, whether it be a flexibility, whether it be local, immediate, quick, whatever. Would you agree with that? Need based. So do you think that digital print offers you the opportunity to be selling very much a needs based product, something that responds to need? So digital print gives people, why is digital interesting? Why is that a good way of printing?
I think what you mentioned before is the personalizing thing. We're living in this selfie era, and people want to look at themselves, but not only at the picture of themselves, but also want to look at a translation of their own behavior in the surroundings that they are. So if you put something on the wall that is completely fitting to your inner need and to your inner being, then you are living.
Sounding a bit Dutch now.
Yeah, it is, but it's like a compliment for you every day.
I call it me ink.
Would you call it, Rachel?
I call it me ink. It's a me ink mindset. Everybody.
That's completely. We see that in our industry as well. We have a customer actually who offers travel books, and what they advertise with is their prefab. So, for example, you go to London. There are all great pictures in that book already of London. Stock photography. You can make those nice pictures, and what they advertise with, you only have to add your selfies.
Yeah,
because people are making so, and that's growing tremendously.
The only thing I would say about personalization, you've both you, Bjorn, and Vincent mentioned personalization. I think we can get caught up in this too much, because actually it's not just about something that I don't want to have a photo of me on the wall. That's who would want that? Come on, let's be honest. Who wants that?
Not too finicky.
That's bullshit. No, of course I want a picture of me on the wall. The point is, it's not about that. It's about
personalization is not about putting your own picture on the wall.
Exactly.
I realise that. I realise that.
Of your inner to the outside, and it could be like, if you're into Dutch cows, you put a Dutch cow on your wall. And you feel really nice.
Vincent, the point I was trying to make was it wasn't about, I think it's a step on from that. I think it's about lots of things that are about wanting to do something different, not necessarily wanting to personalize, but, you know, the fact that you want, but why is it that craft beer is interesting? That's about localization. That's about doing something locally that gives you a feeling that's good inside. So the personalization aspect that you talk about, we've got to be careful we don't get caught up thinking it's about a picture of me.
There's also
it's about personalizing
statement, though, isn't it? That if you
a personalized taste,
beer, you're like, I'm making a personal statement here.
Yeah, which is I want to go and drink some local beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's led by need, isn't it? But actually, what you can do is you can tune need. You can kind of say, you know, why is it we go to craft beer places? We do it because we feel a need to respond to localized product.
Actually, I went to one at the weekend, and I was away for the weekend. It was a micro pub, a craft beer place, and you're right, exactly that. It felt good because it's two local people, and we felt that we were experiencing something different. So absolutely,
and then you come to that. Yeah, and then you come also to that why thing, because they really have a story to tell with their craft, with their beer, why they brew it. It's a combination of where they're from, why they do it, and what they do, and stories. That's something I tell. If you buy the story, not the product at the end.
It's not what you do.
Which is why you're loyal to the brand. Because the brand has story and it has value. And if you can use the technology for the customization, whether it's personalizing or not, you're creating all these little brands. You know, you're able to. That's what you can do.
And that's what's interesting about digital, because it really responds effectively to that.
Yes. Yeah. One company or one hotel could have 100 different, boutique hotels and all these different brands.
Yeah. And on that note, that's about good for timing, isn't it, Marcus?
It is good, yeah. And I'm just going to finish off with a few things I was writing when you were all talking. Be connected outside your immediate industry is a key thing, I think, because you can only learn the opportunity. That's a really good point. Everybody's this is what everybody said, I think. Solve problems. That's a key thing. Solve a problem. That's the key to entrepreneurialism, I think, personally. But if you can do that, provide added value. Add value as a kind of basic thing, not as a special thing. Just do it. Share insight freely. So if you've got expertise, don't always place a fee on it. I think if you share an insight, it will come back to you. That reciprocity thing Fraser mentioned.
Reciprocity, yeah.
Language of creativity. So that sense that we'll stop talking like we're printers, so start talking like we're creatives, because actually the print industry is a creative industry. It's not, but we've kind of segmented ourselves away from it. And lastly, linked to that one really, is tell a story, because creatives are storytellers. And the reason we all got excited about craft beer then isn't just because it's alcohol, I'm sure, and it's Friday. It's I'm sure is because it tells a great story, doesn't it? It really tells a great story, and everybody's gets excited by it because of that. Thank you, everybody, and thanks Fraser for coming in at the end. That was cool. A bit worried that technology had let us down. This is recorded, and we're going to make it freely available for everybody after the event, and everybody that couldn't make it this afternoon will get access. So thanks very much. Have great weekends, and see you soon. And that's my daughter calling me, so I better go. All right then.
Bye everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy the coffee.
Bye bye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye all.
Cheers.